This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Sean Steer, our honored patron and SwitchCat.
Hey everybody, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch artisan. And we have built for you all today a very special and just a jam-packed show with... I feel like we always expect, like, oh, we're going to have like just a regular show this week. Maybe we'll just take it a little easy. And then 100 things happen. Now we're worried about how we're going to keep it all within the usual 90-minute parameters.
Yeah, no kidding. It's been quite a lot, and I'm really glad we were able to cover a whole bunch of stuff last week, last minute, and now this week there's still even more stuff.
That's
insane.
Right. And you have just come back from the mecca of new content to talk about. You just came back from PAX South, where there was tons of stuff to look at.
Oh yeah, PAX South is so much fun, and I always have fun whenever I attend a PAX, but this year was a little bit special because I was donning my SwitchCast t-shirts.
Oh, those looked very sharp, sir.
Yeah, it's just the prototype, just to see if it would work out as a design, and we'll be sending out shirts very soon. But funnily enough, some people were actually able to recognize me with that shirt on.
That's crazy. Like, so what? Like, how do they know what you look like? I mean,
well, I mean, we have our profile pictures, our Facebook profiles are public. It's on our website, that type of stuff. A lot of people were like, "Hey, that's the SwitchCast. Are you?" And then I fill in the blanks for them.
Okay, so they didn't know whether you were JV or KC.
Right, exactly. But I definitely want to give a shout out specifically to Geppetto, who isn't super active on the Discord chat, but he was the first one to recognize me. So way to go. Really nice job. And it's super cool meeting people who know about the SwitchCast in person.
Now you're a real boy, JV.
I'm a real boy. I'm a big boy now. Also, another quick shout out to Abdallah Smash for being like the one big person who really said that they were a big listener of the SwitchCast during the game show panel that I helped run. So, Abdallah, you're an awesome person, and I adore you as a streamer and YouTube person, and please be my friend.
It really means a lot to us that he said that, because he was one of our first guests on the show back when we were still figuring out the format of everything, and he came on the show. Yeah, and we had a great talk with him about him being a Nintendo ambassador and his YouTube channel, all that. And he just gave us a good start with that there, and kind of helped us get into the flow. I'm glad to hear he still listens, and it kind of ties into tonight, because now we've been getting into the flow of these interviews, and we have one even coming up later this episode. So,
oh, absolutely, I'm excited.
Yes. Was there any other great highlights from PAX South that you want to mention before we get into the main body of the episode?
The overall experience was quite fun. It was nice to meet Ms. Silver and a bunch of folks in person, getting to do that panel that I talked about last time.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Silver, for having me on your little game show panel. It was a lot of fun.
Why don't you tell us about some of the games that you got your hands on there? You got to see anything that new or upcoming for the Nintendo Switch?
Oh yeah, there's actually a bunch of Nintendo Switch indie games that were out, and I am super excited to see how enthusiastic these developers are for the platform. I tried out Sleep Tight, which is kind of a twin-stick shooter tower defense style game. That was a lot of fun. I tried out Coffense, which is a fighting game that's kind of centered around knocking coffee out of your opponent's coffee cup and catching them. Coffense. So coffee, offense, coffense. Yeah, it's pretty
Coffee.
There was a Spirit Sphere, which is kind of like a competitive Pong. It's made by the same people who did Slime Son, which is really cool. And there's a bunch of other games that, like Super Fancy Pants, and just so many games that cover the Switch that I can talk about more in depth. And hopefully a lot of them did express interest hopping on the podcast with us. So potential future guests there.
Awesome. Like I said, we've been really been trying to get these guests on. People have been expressing strong enthusiasm for whenever we have someone to chat with. And tonight is no different. Tonight we actually have from Pixel Maniacs, the creative director, Steve Crouse. He's going to talk to us about ChromaGun and, what it's like being another, an indie developer for the Switch. But he's actually right now probably just about waking up. He's in Germany, and we usually like to have the interviews at the top of the show, but we're giving him an extra hour to wake up and reach 6 a.m. his time before he staggers onto the podcast. So we'll have him on in just a bit.
He's such a trooper. I have no idea how he does it, but more power to him.
And actually, speaking of the t-shirts that you got to bring debut at PAX South, I've recently posted on the Patreon page a questionnaire, really just a call out to anyone who has backed us at the required level that they would get a t-shirt. I'm just looking for your shirt sizes because we're going to make the order pretty soon, and I just want to make sure we have enough of each size for everybody who has been a level backer. If you are someone who maybe backed us at the appropriate level, but maybe you've cut back a little bit since then, I still want to get you a shirt out. So if you don't see the post on Patreon, you are free to email me, casey@theswitchcast.com, and just let me know that you backed us at the $20 or more level for 3 months, and we will add you to the list of shipping, and I'll just check that out. So
it's been a long time coming, but I really, really appreciate everyone's patience so far with this. It's almost there.
Yeah, it's been great. So we still got a little game time, just a little something to touch upon. And also, yes, there was that crazy news announcement, just total left field stuff that I don't know. I'm not gonna, I can't get into it now because my mind is still like reformatting from the total out of the blue announcement Nintendo made today that we're going to definitely talk about later on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so let's go and shift over to the game time, and we'll get to that in very short order.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, game time. All right, so like I said, it's going to be a very brief one here because we have so much other stuff to talk about. So I picked up and I got a copy of Pic-a-Pix Deluxe, and this is very simple kind of game that everyone should be somewhat familiar with. It's a Picross game, and it's just one of those puzzle games. It kind of feels like almost like a Sudoku puzzle if you've never played one, where you have a grid and there's numbers on one side, or there's numbers along two sides of the grid, and those numbers are your hints as to which blocks of the grid you have to fill in order to make a picture. So there's just a little bit of a logic thing to it. But Pic-a-Pix adds another element to it. It has those classic black and white pixel puzzles, but this one adds this new element of color to the typically, these Picross puzzles are just black and white. And what this actually adds, since it has the color, is normally you would just have a series of numbers on the sides, like I said, to indicate how many you need to fill in on each column. This now, each number also has a color, and there's a few other little extra rules that you have to take into account, knowing that there's those extra colors in the mix. It's really simple to pick up. I do like having this kind of game on my Switch. It's super chill. It's very relaxed. The pictures are, a nice variety. There's 300 different puzzles on this game, which is a really good supply, keep you occupied, and it's like buying a puzzle book or a crossword puzzle, honestly. It's just something to pick up, get lost in for a very short amount of time, and you feel like you've made something pretty at the end there.
Yeah, it kind of feels like one of those adult coloring books mixed with Sudoku, I think.
Yeah, right. It definitely has that brain stimulation of a Sudoku, just enough to make you feel like you're doing something smart.
I mean, we all kind of want to feel smart sometimes, right?
Yeah. This also adds in a few other cool little, features just to not be just a Picross game. There's actually up to 4-player support. So if you want to, so if you want to share a puzzle with other people, they can all just pick up controllers and connect, and you can all be digging around and adding pixels wherever you see fit, wherever people are figuring it out. And that's pretty nice. Actually, it kind of reminds me of the fact that lately when I come home, if I happen to come home at the same time as my wife, she usually prints out a crossword puzzle, and we've made a little bit of a habit of working on a crossword together.
That's adorable.
Thank you. It's nice. And I wouldn't mind, or I think that some people could find it pretty easy, even if you didn't want to whip out the controls. It can use touchscreen controls as well, so you could just hold it up and you could both just touch the dots that you want to fill in together like that. So it's pretty nice in that regard. I like the little extra step they took to add that multiplayability. The only thing I say that I wish they did add that I feel the game is a little lacking is some more music tracks. It literally has just this one loop going on.
Oh no. Okay, I can see how that can kind of be mind blowing.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, it's not the kind of game that needs music, so you could just turn it off when you don't want, but a few other simple little mixes would have been nice once in a while to switch it up.
I'm sure it could get pretty annoying hearing the same type of tune over and over for this type of game.
Yes, totally. I did have to turn it to mute sometimes just to... Yeah, like I said, it's not a big part of the game, but the size of the puzzles though also is pretty big. I believe I don't know what they used to max out at, but now they go up to 35 by 25 size grids, which are really massive. Like you could start out with very simple ones that are just like 5 by 5 is like introductory, and they're pretty simple. But it gets bigger and bigger, and those massive ones feel like you're working on a 1,000-piece puzzle at times, because you really don't even know where to start, but then you start making a little bit of progress here, a little bit of progress there. What's really nice, though, and there's always the possibility that you mess something up, and you don't know you messed something up. And then you hit a point where you're like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. There can't be 2 black dots in this row now, but I swear this all made sense when I filled them in. It does have a correction feature where you can ask it, hey, did I make any mistakes so far? And it will, correct it if you ask it to. You do earn a medal, though, if you do it without that. So if you care about, like, getting these little medals that it gives you for doing them without help, you'll try to avoid that. But hey, if you're just trying to get through and you're like, I just put 20 minutes into this giant puzzle, I want to know where I messed up. It'll fix that for you. So that's a nice thing it did there. I think that's pretty courteous of them.
Okay, cool. That's a good feature.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, there's not really obviously too much to say about these kind of games, but they are pretty fun. And at the price of $8, you're going to get a lot of time out of this game. Like you're assured to get 300 of them. I'd say the short ones take you maybe 5 minutes. The long ones could take you like 20 minutes each. So you're going to get a lot of gameplay and just a lot of time-filling enjoyment out of these if for that price. So they're pretty good.
I mean, there's not really too much to talk about for this type of game, but it seems like it's something that is up a lot of people's alley.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I like having games like this installed on there just for like, all right, I want to just kill a few times on the bus here or there.
Yeah.
Briefly, I'm just literally going to say I want to give my 2-word impression of a game I also bought this week that I will go into a more detailed review next week, but of Mice and Sand. My 2 words. Jawa Simulator.
Not bad.
Yeah. It totally, I won't say anything else, but other than it's cute and also very, like, heart-wrenching at times.
That's more than 2 words, Casey.
I know, but I had my 2-word review. No one said I couldn't have another one.
All right, so those 2 reviews, separate reviews of the same game.
If all you want is 2 words, it's Jawa Simulator. But I still had to eke in those other little things.
Just had to, couldn't help it.
Get it? Eke in. Nice.
That was great and terrible.
Whee! Okay, let's leave this in the dust.
Okay, all right.
Dust, sand. News rundown. I just want to say this morning, I got on the bus going to work, I saw a tweet from Nintendo saying that they're going to announce a, quote, new way to play. And before I had looked at anything that people were talking about, any details that maybe had leaked of this, I just saw that and I was like, guys, the sky's the limit. I tweeted out, like, I can't imagine. I'm just excited at what this could be because it could be pretty much anything at this point. And the general consensus online was like, dude, they said it's for kids. Don't get excited. I don't know. I can't stand how the internet's getting all hyped over this. All right, just chill out or you're all going to be disappointed. And, I was like, okay, sorry guys. I didn't realize this was, the general feeling online. So I took down the tweet. I reposted something a little more even mannered, just like, hey, this sounds interesting. Can't wait to see what it is. Let's see what's going on. And then they came out with this crazy thing.
Yeah, Nintendo Labo?
I think so. I think it's like to be like a laboratory, but like short
Labo. Or is it like Lego, but lab?
Yeah, okay, I could see that.
Honestly, it's kind of interesting that you say that, because I definitely understand that people wanted to temper their excitement, but for some reason, I'm seeing a weirdly negative reaction in some circles for this.
I'm definitely seeing polarized reaction. And I feel like this is why people were trying to get expectations low, because they knew if everyone got hyped, people would be even more angry.
Or disappointed.
Or disappointed who don't appreciate what this is. And honestly, though, I do. I think this is cool. And I know they said it's for kids and kids at heart, but why don't you just explain what the Nintendo Labo is or what we saw in this trailer today, and maybe the viewers can decide what they feel like it.
So it's actually kind of hard to describe this per se, but Nintendo Labo looks to be a cardboard-based arts and crafts where you can use cardboard cutouts or cardboard templates to make enclosures and little building and little toys that integrate with the Nintendo Switch.
They call them Toy-Cons, which is
genius.
So good. And they look like sturdy, like playable toys that function in just mind-blowing ways. I mean, just the first thing they showed us was they would punch out this cardboard. It comes in a kit, right? You can buy these packs, and there's the game, and then it also comes with these, sheets of cardboard that you punch out. The game has animated instructions on how to put everything together. So you follow the instructions on the game on your Switch as you bend and put all this stuff together with the other little items they have in there. And the first thing they showed made was a little keyboard, like a thing with like 10 keys or whatever, and black and white ones, and it was sturdy looking, and you could actually press the keys. And using the sensitivity, the crazy technology that's in those Joy-Cons, it would know which key you're pressing, and it could play music accordingly. There was, I don't want to say RC car, but a little remote controlled bug sort of thing.
Yeah.
That used the HD Rumble. The HD Rumble, it's precision vibrations to cause this little bug creature to move around in different directions and rotate. And you controlled it with the game, the tablet.
Touchscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was even looking at some articles about people who got to try this, and they've just published them today. They said that Nintendo even encouraged people to kind of do BattleBots style duels with these things, like Bakugan style, where they would customize their little bugs in different ways and try to distribute the weight in different ways to sumo wrestle other robots with these. It's crazy. There was the fishing rod. What else did we see?
What excited me the most, obviously, was the freaking giant robots.
Yeah.
The robot backpack. Holy cow.
That thing had, it was a backpack, visor, and like strings that then went down to something you wore around your ankles, and you would hold the Joy-Con ends, and it could tell how much tension is on the strings as you move them and your legs, and it would animate a robot on the screen so that you're basically like a Gundam pilot.
Yeah.
G Gundam style.
A G Gundam style. It's man, I was really impressed with this. During the initial announcement, I was actually very different from you, Casey. I didn't expect that much, but I think this is one of the coolest things that I've seen in gaming for a while.
It's definitely the most original thing we've seen. The possibilities of what can happen with this are astounding. Already, I'll say Door to Door Geek gave us a great tweet, saying how he could see people even augmenting these kits further with custom, what do they call those? The maker bots?
Absolutely, yeah.
Custom maker bot things to add on and print out. Yeah, 3D print stuff. They're going to sell separately. So right now what they're selling is going to be a variety pack, which is $70. That's the game, and it has a whole bunch of little small toys to make out of this. The robot pack is separate. That's one whole separate game, and that's $80. But there's also going to be a customization pack that has all sorts of stencil, stickers, colored tape, it looked like markers, to just stuff to customize this stuff that you're making in your own little flair. I didn't see how much that is, but this is supposed to come out around April 20th, and and I can definitely see people just posting stuff online. The stencils actually will be free. So if you just want to make the toys and you don't want to buy the game, or maybe you want to make more of the toys for yourself, so you have 5 backpacks or, an extra set of robot battlers for that little RC thing, you can go and just make, print out the stencils and then just get your own cardboard and just make more on your own, which is really cool possibilities there.
I am enamored by this type of stuff. This is I used to work with Lego Mindstorms at Boys and Girls Clubs where I used to live, and seeing kids play with Legos, and even to a greater degree Mindstorms, where you can actually program and make automated stuff happen, it really sparks creativity in kids, and I love that this is the type of stuff that gets people and gets kids going. And what I also love is that this is incredibly specific to the Nintendo Switch. I can't think of any other console right now that could do something like this.
I don't like calling out competitors. I'm just saying, I just want to see Sony or Microsoft try to copy this with their consoles. You just can't. You can't do that with what they have. And so this is such a Nintendo thing. This is the most Nintendo thing they've ever done, honestly.
It kind of reminds me of Let's Tap on the Wii. Do you remember that?
No.
Let's Tap and Let's Tap. Future tapping game. No?
No, it does not ring a bell.
Oh my gosh. It's a game where you got a box and you put the Wiimote on top of it, and the gameplay was tapping the box to control whatever was on screen. And it wasn't incredibly popular, but it did utilize the Wii motion controls while tapping on just a cardboard box to
wow.
to control mini games on the screen. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of this.
Now, some interesting reservations some people have posited is what are you going to do with these things once you've made them? Like, if you're just someone like me who has finite storage space, I don't know if I could keep, this keyboard, these little robots, the backpack. I don't necessarily have places to put all this stuff once it's made. It is something that I feel like some people will have to take that into consideration, or if they just want to make it, you have fun with it. Maybe it's just a hobby, but I think definitely parents who have kids and kids with a little toy closet, they'll have plenty of place to keep this. And also the longevity. How long will that pterodactyl that you can make with it, how long will that be fun to play with before they're like, okay, I've done it, I've seen that, I need to move on. I think Nintendo will have to keep making some sort of updates, or maybe DLC for this game in order to keep it interesting. Like some of them I can see being interesting for a long time. Like that keyboard, that seems like something that could be very fun for a long time, and you could probably even teach yourself how to play the piano with that.
Bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It but at the same time, a lot of these things I feel like will get played with for a short amount of time and then maybe just fall to the background. Again, though, maybe that's not such a big deal. They're made out of cardboard. You can replace it and remake it if you get tired of it anyway, and maybe that's where the fun is at anyhow, so we'll see.
And honestly, this type of stuff is an activity. The act of punching these cardboard stencils out, integrating them into the Switch, building them together, and then seeing it come alive. That activity is what people are really buying this for. And yes. I think that would probably be worth it. You don't necessarily have to worry so much about the completed product. It's the creativity that comes into making it.
Yeah. I totally can see people putting up custom stencils. I could see a community even arising around this where they'll invent, new options to, incorporate and all these sort of things. I can imagine that we have not seen the whole of what this is going to be yet. I could see Nintendo announcing a whole system where they'll, upload new games over time, or
maybe they'll release new kits over time.
Yeah, new kits. Just things that people will be able to augment this experience with. It reminds me of Maker Camp. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I haven't done that myself, but I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, I got into that one year, and it's just really, it feels very satisfying just to partake in the making. You've done it, and even if I don't keep the thing or I threw it in my closet after a while, it was just, the activity of making was really fun.
And I definitely want to stress, this isn't something that's taking away from the core gaming experience of the Nintendo Switch. I'm pretty sure by now Nintendo has proven that they're really in this for the core gamer, and us, I guess 18 and above, millennials, Gen X, that type of stuff. Us gamers of an older age are already on the Switch, already interested in it. But this is a good way to bring the younger audience into the Switch ecosystem that I guess Nintendo hasn't really been targeting quite as much recently.
That's actually a good point. I mean, the first thing a lot of people said was how, let's say one person posted how he's a teacher who would love to get even his kids to all take part in something like this. And it is something that makes you feel like if you have kids, you're not just sitting them in front of a digital babysitter. This is a system in which you will do something creative that's mentally stimulating and fun, and it incorporates a video game in with it. And so that's something beyond just plugging them in front of something to play games for a while.
Right, exactly. If you don't have any kids, if you have no interest in this, it's easy to just ignore and not really pay attention to. But to those who really fit the demographic that they're looking for, parents, caretakers, etc., this is perfect.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing we have to keep in mind. It definitely has a very specific target. Not everything has to be for everyone, and I think it's great that they made something that they're definitely targeting for kids. But yes, I feel like there's going to be a good number of grown-ups who are just going to have fun with it too.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so I mean, I look forward to seeing more about this as it's revealed. But yeah, again, who saw this coming? Honestly, of all the possible things, who saw
I was half
coming?
expecting like a Nintendo Switch version of what was that thing? The sensor, the finger sensor.
Oh yeah, the vitality sensor.
Vitality sensor. I was kind of expecting something like that, or the Wii Fit. Not something like this, and this definitely seems a lot cooler than either of those.
Yeah, just when you think they've done every crazy thing you could expect.
Here, it's Nintendo.
Really is, and they've still got it.
They still surprise us.
All right, so other headlines for this week. I just wanted to give basically a public service announcement. A lot of people were talking about how the Switch Online service was being pushed back to 2019 because of something that was posted on Nintendo's homepage, basically listing that as the date of how long it'll be free until. That has been confirmed as just a typo. When they were updating the page, I guess somebody just upped the year by one, and that's not the case. It's still 2018. Sometime this year, we should be converting to the paid system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so SNK Heroines. This is actually one of the games that we saw last week in the mini direct.
Oh yeah, I definitely remember this one.
Yes. This is the all-girl fighting game with different SNK characters. And one of the aspects, obvious, is the fact that they're all wearing crazy costumes that you can customize. And some people notice that, these characters, not that I thought they looked particularly racy, but maybe they didn't show off some of the costumes that'll eventually be there.
Right, the most racy of elements. Because I do know that Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which was released by Atlas, it got pretty racy.
Okay. All right, so that's a fair warning to anybody who is interested in that game. But they actually have even specified this week that the content released globally will contain the same costumes and content. There will be no Western censoring or toning down of anything in the game for our sensibilities. So if you're someone who is uncomfortable by that, you will want to keep an eye out. Also, I love the little joke that they added at the end of this, that it's more accessible for all players and not just hardcore fighting gamers. You'll use your entire controller. Do you know what they're referencing there? Do you get that?
Yes. Was it Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball?
Yes, the game that they said you can play with just one hand. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I will leave that there. Moving on. Dark Souls Remastered, which, if anyone is familiar with the game, knows that it has a heavy online component where you can jump into other people's games and either help them out or join the forces of evil that they're fighting and try to, sabotage their progress. There will not be cross-platform, they confirmed this week. Considering all the different systems this has running at different performance rates, I don't think that they are confident that they can make it run evenly across all these different systems.
Right, and it is worth noting that none of the Dark Souls Remastered platforms will be getting crossplay. So on the PS4 or Xbox, it's not getting crossplay either. It's not anything exclusive to the Switch. It's an issue that the game is going to have in all its releases.
Yep. And let's see, we got something cool here. Splatoon 2 is actually the first console game to sell 2 million copies in Japan this decade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's pretty impressive. Now, consider this is 2018. So we're at the end of the decade. So it's not like it was just the first year and they, hit this goal before anyone else. All right. We've had 8 years in the 2010s and no one else has hit this landmark. And they specify in Japan mostly because it's the only region in which they keep such detailed sales figures.
Right. Which makes sense.
And speaking of Splatoon 2, we got an update this week. The Splatoon version 2.2.0, just a bunch of bug fixes for the game, nothing too major. And Concerned Ape teased a few more Stardew Valley multiplayer screenshots, saying that he's finished all the new content that will be coming with this update. He's now just really focusing on making the multiplayer, the 4-player co-op aspect of that game work, which should be good to revitalize some of that fun.
Yeah, honestly, Stardew Valley has still been going pretty strong within our Discord chat. So yeah, including multiplayer is going to be a huge benefit to all those fellows.
The new releases, January 18th, today, we have World to the West, Darkest Dungeon, Oh Sir, the Insult Simulator, which I guess got pushed back to this week. And
Sir.
Or it's another variation. It seems like they have a lot of them because the other one is Oh Sir, the Hollywood Roast, and Ambition of the Slimes.
On January 19th, Vesta is coming out. Knucklen?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to say that one either.
Yeah. And Baseball Riot. On January 22nd, we're getting ChromaGun. Woo! And on the 23rd, we're getting Lost Sphere and Shoot.
Down the pipe. Okay, so some other games that were announced this week. We have Night in the Woods, which is coming February 1st. This is the anthropomorphic, pretty creepy, dark, but it's like a platforming little puzzle adventure game.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a strong music element to it.
It definitely looks really interesting, and I'd like to try this one.
It will be the interstitial music, if anyone is curious where it came from. That the transition music to the news will be from this game. Her Majesty's Spiffing, which is this funny kind of comedic point and click adventure style game with lots of British humor going on.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes. Disc Jam is coming February 8th. That is, it's a sportsy kind of Tron-looking kind of sports game.
Okay, yeah, I can see it.
Mercenary Saga Chronicles is coming sometime in February. These are the Final Fantasy Tactics-esque games. One of them was released on 3DS, and or two of them were released in 3DS in the West. One of them never came here. They're coming as a collection. Pretty cool. I will probably play that because I have not played a FF Tactics game in a while.
In quite a while, yeah.
And that has sated me, yeah. We saw a trailer for Scribblenauts Showdown, which is coming March 6th, and we got a little bit of an idea how this works.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a PvP version of Scribblenauts, which I'm totally down for.
I liked, in the trailer, they just showed two people facing off and trying to think of things that beat what the other called. Like, they did, like, rock, the other person called paper, the other person called flamethrower,
And the other person Dalmatian.
Yeah, Dalmatian puts out this. So it's pretty cool. I kind of get where they're going. Very interested, though. The South Park, The Fractured But Whole, is coming March 13th. Physical version of Max, Curse of Brotherhood, March 23rd. Immortal Redneck looked like a pretty crazy magic FPS coming out in the first quarter of 2018. That actually looked pretty, I don't want to say, not from Doom, but it was like one of those Doom-like games. Like, I'm all out of bubblegum.
Duke Nukem.
Yeah, like a Duke Nukem kind of like funny. Masters of Anima, quarter 2, 2018, which looks like a medieval fantasy Pikmin, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. I do like the color scheme of the graphics, so it does seem like an interesting idea.
Yeah. Like you summon different characters and different like soldiers and heroes, and they all have different things they can do, and you go around and, you send them to do tasks as you fight bad guys. Kind of, yeah. Good take on that. Epic Loon is coming sometime this year. Space Jacked also this year, and soon we will be getting Dream Alone and Irem Arcade Classics, which are a bunch of like old school NES games that I remember renting from a Captain Video like a million years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kid Nicky I played, and I think I remember playing Moon Patrol on some crazy import cartridge I got. And there's also a game called Yoju Den that I've never seen before.
Yeah, okay. I've never heard of these games or played them, so...
Okay. Kid Nicky, some people might remember. That was a pretty cool little platformer.
Okay, maybe.
Okay, alright, so let's go into the interview and welcome our special guest who has just gotten up and is freshly caffeinated with his morning coffee. All right, everybody, we have another great and special guest all the way from Nuremberg, Germany, just fresh out of bed, Steve Crouse, creative director at Pixel Maniacs. Thank you for making the time at this ungodly hour to record with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
JV, you've actually been the one who has picked up, and you've been playing with ChromaGun this past week, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've been playing it quite a bit. I actually just recently finished it, so I'm definitely excited to talk about it as much as possible.
Nice. So, Steve, why don't we start off? Just tell us about yourself and just give the listeners an idea of what kind of history you have with gaming and game development. Just who are you?
Well, yeah. That's a good question. So, I started I got into games like really early when I was, I'm gonna say 5 or 6. No, that's not true. That's too young. 7 maybe? I don't know, something like that.
It's like we're all making up the memories.
Right. So, I used to play video games a lot, much to the disliking of my parents, of course.
Yeah,
like,
that's
the
like
story,
a pretty
right?
common story for all of us.
Right. So, what happened at some point was like I got fed up with just playing video games, and I found out, hey, there's a way to make video games. And back then that was RPG Maker.
Oh, that's classic.
I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, I think RPG Maker is a pretty common start for a lot of us game developers who didn't really know where to start back then.
I think so, yeah.
You on the PC? I'm assuming you got with that.
Yes, on the PC.
Okay,
I was a PC user back then.
Okay. My first RPG maker was SNES, and I had to type everything out by using the crossbar to find every letter.
Oh, that sounds so cumbersome.
Yeah,
it was hard.
I mean, we didn't really have that many options back then, so I'm assuming our natural enthusiasm would really make it seem worth it, maybe.
Yeah, I hear that. Wow, okay, I didn't even know they had an RPG maker on the SNES.
Back on the
SNES,
yeah.
Or wait, I'm sorry, not SNES. It was a PlayStation 1.
Okay, still,
okay, yeah,
but still old school. Yeah.
Not bad.
Memories getting, but yeah, no, I remember I put so much work into it, and a friend of mine even helped me with some pixel art for it. And then we went and I made a big deal where I tried to show it off to some people, and had this whole intro, nice cinematic, like little start, and those were like, when do I get to kill stuff? And they didn't read anything, and we were just crestfallen because they were like, I don't know. I guess I just showed it to the wrong kind of audience.
Right.
Oh, that sounds that's.
It was very disappointing.
That is a big part of it, though. The audience.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Now, when it comes to actually Pixel Maniacs itself, how did you get involved with that? I guess company or team.
Well, that's a good question. I actually
we have lots of those. Hopefully,
yeah. Here's hoping.
That's good. Well, I like I said, when I started like with RPG Maker, that was very defining moment because that's where I said to myself, right, that's what you have to do like for the rest of your life because that's just awesome.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Then whenever I told anybody, hey, I want to become a game dev, like the initial reaction always was like, all right, what do you really want to be? Because like that's nobody makes money off of that. I'm like, all right, maybe I become a teacher. So I went off to study like English to teach children, and that didn't work out because it was just boring as hell. And then I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna go with the game dev thing, or I'm gonna go with at least design. So I studied media design. And then somewhere in the middle of the studies, somewhere in the middle of college, a friend of mine hits me up and says, hey, would you like to translate mobile apps? Because, I'm native English speaker and I'm a native German speaker.
Nice.
And, he says, I'm working for a company. We make mobile apps and like, we need somebody to translate the apps for us. I said, yeah, sure. Sounds like fun. And back then, like, that was actually Pixel Maniacs before it became Pixel Maniacs.
Oh, wow.
So
okay,
yeah,
so
like before
Pixel
we
Maniacs...
did the games, we did apps.
Okay. All
And,
right.
like,
So you were actually more of like a contractor team that didn't necessarily make content of your own. It's just a
No, it was our own content, but
gotcha,
like it was just mobile apps.
Gotcha. It wasn't focused on games quite yet.
Right.
Awesome.
I mean,
okay.
like small games, like Battleship multiplayer.
Okay.
Cool.
Like,
okay. Like
chess multiplayer.
I mean,
cool.
Got to start somewhere for that.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
How many people are on your team nowadays? Anyway.
Right now we're 8 people.
8 people. And are there any other titles that might be familiar to somebody listening?
Well, if you're on Reddit and on Twitter and on 9gag a lot, we have Can't Drive This, which has made its rounds through social media. It's like multiplayer party game. One player drives while the other player builds the track.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually saw videos of this, and I think it's an incredibly cool idea.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited to bring that too.
Speaking of cool ideas, you guys obviously we're talking here because of primarily ChromaGun.
Could you actually just give us a quick explanation of what ChromaGun is all about and how the game actually plays, so the listeners who might not have heard of it before have an idea of what this game is?
Oh yeah, sure. So ChromaGun is a first-person puzzle game in which you solve test chambers with an experimental gun. And you have a narrator who's snarky and follows you through the entire thing. And wait, that's Portal. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So the basic idea is, you have this gun and you can shoot colors, and you shoot wall panels and you shoot the enemies, and then the enemies are attracted to walls that have the same color, and you can mix colors, and then there's a lot of other obstacles to overcome, and it's a fun puzzle game.
Awesome.
Where did the inspiration to make that game come from?
Well, we that was actually our very, very first video game. That was our switch from mobile apps to games.
Okay.
We participated in the game jam
called
Ludum Dare, and the theme was an unconventional weapon. And we thought long and hard. And then at some point, like, the idea just popped up that we could, like, have color to be the weapon. And, it was pretty straightforward from then.
So, yeah, I've actually definitely participated in Ludum Dare events in the past myself.
Oh, cool.
Is it Ludum Dare or is it Ludum Dare? I'm not actually sure.
So, we asked Mike, who does the Ludum whatever.
Ludum does something.
Ludum does. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. His colleagues doesn't know. No.
I googled this and it's contentious how Ludum Dare or Ludum Dare is pronounced. So,
it's nuts. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why that is.
It's Latin, but regardless.
I know Ludo or anything Ludo. That's game something.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know what Dare would mean in Latin though. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Regardless, though, I'm actually really excited to hear that ChromaGun came from something like a game jam. I know if you guys don't know, listeners, game jams are essentially events where you have a weekend with a team to come up with something based on a theme that everyone has to follow. And you're essentially creating a game from scratch within that small time window. And it can be fun. It can be insane, and some really wacky ideas can come from it.
It's like Iron Chef of video games.
It kind of is. I've had plenty of sleepless... sleepless nights staying up, programming and making games with a bunch of people. It's a great experience, and I'm glad ChromaGun came from that.
I'm curious, were there any other possible options that you guys were considering before you settled on the color weapon?
Oh, way too many and very horrible options. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tell me at least one horrible option you considered.
If you remember.
I vividly remember one which I'm gonna have to just say our CO came up with, and we all shot down. Thankfully.
Okay, put the blame on him. Got it.
Actually, we later found out that actually became an entry for Ludum Dare as well.
Really?
Sorry, whatever. We didn't go into too much detail because, like, the idea was just so we didn't want to do it.
Was it explicit or risque in any way?
Well, let's just say the unconventional weapon included or like consisted of flatulence.
Okay, all right. That's a very tactful way to put that.
I love it. I approve wholeheartedly.
So you did this for that event. How soon after that did it become something that you were selling, like on a large scale that became like an actual profitable title for you?
Well, when we started it, we said like it was just for fun, and it would stay that way. And then people loved it, and we said, all right, let's not keep it that way. Let's make it something else. Let's make it something more. And back then we were still doing mobile, right?
Right, mobile.
So we thought the next logical step would be to bring it to mobile, because that was what we knew. That was our thing.
Right.
And we overhauled the graphics, and we spent a lot of time on the game. I think it was like half a year or so.
Wow. Okay.
Developed new test chambers and developed more content. I mean, I think the initial version is still on the iOS App Store. It's horrible.
Oh wow! Is it like ChromaGun Classic or something like that?
Right, basically, yeah. The ChromaGun Genesis.
I do have to ask, how much of the original Ludum Dare code made it into the final product?
Scarily much.
Oh really?
Yeah, we never redid the project. It's just built on top. Like that's like,
impressive.
It's like a big, weird, scary tower of Jenga right now.
But it works surprisingly. I played the game on the Switch, and it's been holding up quite well.
Yeah,
so,
actually,
kudos.
we've been surprised with the Switch, because like we thought, okay, like a little little tablet device without much power it's gonna make it really hard for us to bring ChromaGun onto it. But it's been an absolute blast developing for the Nintendo Switch. It was crazy.
That's actually a really good question. I've done these Ludum Dares, and I know Unity is a really popular platform, and I can definitely tell ChromaGun came from Unity.
Yes.
And I was just wondering what the process was to bring ChromaGun that was made in Unity over to the Switch. You said it was pretty good, right?
It was pretty good. Nintendo was working really closely with Unity and with us as well. And I mean, Unity can pretty much export to anything these days if you have the appropriate license.
So if you have the license, then you can just click on the export feature, and it creates a bundle that's compatible for the Switch for you to send over to Nintendo?
Pretty much. I mean, like, you have to... There's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. Sometimes your code won't work because you're using platform-specific code, or your shaders won't compile because the shader model on one platform doesn't work on the other platform, and then, like, user management is different on every platform. So there's a lot of work, like, around the core game that will really annoy you, but usually it's pretty straightforward.
And I was always curious how Unity handled, having the two modes of the Nintendo Switch. Was it difficult to program or set configurations for the Switch when it's docked versus when it's undocked?
I'm not really sure because I didn't do the programming on the Switch port, but from what I've heard, it was really not that big of a problem.
Which is actually really reassuring to hear, because that means so many Unity games are open to being released on the Switch, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of them.
Now, you mentioned that you kind of made a little joke that the game is Portal, but obviously, I mean, you have been unabashed. I feel that even in your trailers, that it is definitely Portal inspired, at least in terms of the vibe and the comedy it's going for, like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's it like, though, working on a game that you're so certain is going to be compared to one of gaming's most revered titles? Does that make it a little extra daunting to put it out there that you're going to be compared to this sacred game of people?
Right. It does. I mean, so the original plan wasn't to be that at all. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the original Ludum Dare game was set in outer space, and we had this beautiful, actually, it wasn't that beautiful, space skybox, and,
nice.
The enemies were weird color blobs. I don't even know what they were. And it was all way more outer space sci-fi than it is now. But we couldn't get that to look nice on iOS, the initial version.
Okay.
And it just felt wrong. So we experimented with a lot of different types of art styles. And, one big problem especially were the weird color blob enemies we couldn't get right. Because at that time we had no idea what we were doing.
Right.
So I ended up replacing them with just spheres. Just basic Unity spheres.
Right.
And, we said, all right, maybe this sphere is just some weird robot. Right. And then, over time, the sphere developed into the worker droid, and it got the rings, and it got the jet at the bottom, and got the spikes and whatever. But when we said this is going to be a robot, that was when we decided to have the robot not float in space, but have it float somewhere around some weird lab. And then we realized, okay, we have we have a gun that doesn't shoot bullets. And we were fighting robots in a sort of test chamber-like environment. And we said, okay, screw it, let's go with it. And we did the whole Portal homage thing. And it turned out to work really well.
Yeah.
You guys definitely just went with it and embraced it once you found out that it fit your gameplay intentions. So it wasn't something you started with, but something that you grew into.
Right, that's very true.
Once you said you were going down that path, what did you say? All right, since we're going down this path, what can we bring out in our game based on the success of something like a Portal? So
we weren't really planning on I don't know, leeching off the success or anything. It was just consider it a love letter to the game, right?
Right.
That's a good way. Yeah. Okay.
So we added like clean floor tiles, which is, they don't have those in Portal really, but that's what you remember it as.
Yeah.
If you replay the first Portal, it's not that clean all. It just, it just feels that way in your memory. But
right.
like we tried to recreate that a little bit, and we added the narrator, and we added some Easter eggs, so just to remind people of the first time they played Portal.
Yeah, playing through the game, I definitely saw a lot of the Easter eggs and call outs to that. It's definitely something that allows you to reference Portal without necessarily saying you're a clone or in any way. It's a really good, love letter to it, I think.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the core gameplay is so different. It's just, it has a few of these overlapping ideas, but the color gun... Yeah, the color gun, just what I've seen and what JV's Tim telling me at the game, does not function in any way like that. It's just, it is its own thing. It is just a first-person puzzle game. That is like the only overlap, really.
In like gameplay, yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Whenever it comes to these games with these like puzzles and these like crazy, very high concept kind of challenges and maps, I'm always curious how you guys come up with these puzzles. Like, what is the process for making these challenges?
That's a good question. So what we did is even during the jam, we created this 2D level editor, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay. It was web based, and it allowed us to really quickly like iterate and create new levels. So what we did is, basically, we just made a whole lot of levels, and then we cherry picked the best parts and made those into like the levels that made it into the game. I mean, the core idea behind every single chamber was the same as any puzzle, really. You design a start and an exit, and it's just one straight line from start to exit, and then you find a way to stop the player from reaching the exit, right? So you make a wall. That's the most basic thing. And then you find a way to allow the player to reach the exit. So you make a door. And then you find another way to stop the player. So you make a button for the door, And that's just like, you iterate on that often enough. And that's when you get like the puzzle.
Now, when it comes to designing the actual gameplay of ChromaGun, what was the limit for you guys? What made you decide, okay, it might get too complex after this point? Or if how do you determine whether a puzzle is too simple or too complex for the player?
That's really hard because it involves a lot of playtesting and a lot of external playtesting as well, because every single one of us finishes the game in probably like, I don't know, 30 minutes from now.
Right, especially considering you guys probably played it so much and know what the answer is immediately.
Exactly. So we just rush through the game. We don't even like think about it. It's basically muscle memory.
Yeah, so, I can imagine for sure.
What we did is just playtest really often, and like when we had sort of the levels that we wanted to include, which were just the most fun levels for us.
Okay.
Or the most memorable levels for us. We then had a bunch of playtesters who playtested all of the chambers, and every single time they did that, or every single time somebody came in, we rearranged the levels.
Oh wow. Okay. So they weren't in a set order. That was actually something I was going to ask, if there was any rhyme and reason to the order of which you set up these levels.
Right. So yeah, we iterated on that to sort of get the best order of levels that we could. And what we did is we sprinkled a few no-brainers in between.
Okay.
Which I feel is something we shouldn't have done, because it's been described as difficulty spiking in weird levels. Yeah. Or in weird places.
Yeah, noticing the game, I noticed that some levels were significantly more difficult than others within the same chapter.
Right.
I can see it, you guys doing that so that you can kind of take a mental break between each
that was
puzzle.
The idea, right.
But yeah, I can see that as a potential criticism that some people might have.
Mm-hmm. Was there a balance in mind between how much of the game you wanted them to spend thinking about a puzzle versus how much they actually had to execute it? Like, is there a similar difficulty in actually doing the action of carrying out once you figured out a puzzle, or did you really want to just put the weight of the challenge on the cognitive aspect of it?
It's all brain work.
Okay.
There's not one single level there is one single level where you have to be fast.
Yep. Yeah, there definitely is.
I think it's not the one that you think it is.
Oh.
Are you thinking of one at nighttime with 4 blue droids?
Yes.
That's not it.
Oh, okay.
All the time in the world for that one. But that's the one everybody thinks you have to be fast.
Okay. Interesting. That's tricksy.
Yeah, so it's all once you figure it out, you have all the time in the world.
There isn't generally any timed events within the game, so once something happens, once you've kind of figured out what you need to do, you can just execute and proceed with it.
Right.
And that seems like an intentional design, is that right?
It is.
Okay.
We tried to like diminish the whole trial and error thing that Portal had.
Yeah.
It was part by design, part by necessity, by introducing the gray droids.
Right.
So when you paint a droid or a wall often enough, it becomes gray and it won't attract anything anymore.
Right.
So that will eventually force you to restart a chamber, and
right,
that
exactly.
just makes you like think ahead more.
And I actually found it interesting that there aren't really any twitchy elements to this, like in Portal. Portal has a lot of physics-based puzzles, while this is a lot of almost logic puzzling.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to execute something beforehand, and that's definitely a way to differentiate your game to Portal.
Right. So what I also like to say when somebody asks me what the differences are is, in Portal you move around a lot and it's all about like you moving through the chamber. In ChromaGun it's more about moving other things through the chamber.
Right.
You don't walk around as much, if only to get a new like angle on the whole thing and to reach the exit. But usually it's about moving the droids more than moving yourself.
Right. Yes. And I was thinking about that. I know ChromaGun, you guys released it initially as an app. Did you have any difficulties getting the control scheme working for an app as opposed to on a console like the Switch?
Oh yeah, it was horrible on mobile. It was really, really bad. Which is, I'm glad it was actually somehow in retrospect, because if it hadn't been, maybe more people would have played it. And we never would have made the switch to PC and console games.
Okay. That's actually a really good point, because I'm guessing maybe the purely touchscreen isn't the most ideal control scheme for this type of game. So
Not
maybe
at all, no.
Having fewer people play it means they have a better first impression later on.
That's a funny thing. Speaking of that, like something funny like that, though. I mean, when did you decide to start adding the humor to the game? I mean, I know it started out in that little game jam event sort of thing,
right?
But when did you start like saying, "Oh, we should have like this, taunting voice and add the whole theme of the corporate situation"?
Actually, it was shortly before, or I think it was just a few months, maybe even a month before release.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. Okay,
yeah.
So that was a bit of a more last-minute decision.
Yeah, and the whole, like, a lot changed in the last few weeks before release, because up until then, like, we had the sterile rooms and the robots, and we may or may not have had a cake. But like it was all the same. So you would progress through 8 chapters. Back then they weren't even chapters, they were just, consecutive rooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or consecutive chambers. And I thought, like, it's super boring to just, do the same thing over and over again. It all looks the same. What can we do within a very limited budget to add, like, just a little bit of depth and a little bit of more the feeling of Portal, right? So I said, hey, let's add a weird, snarky, mean narrator.
That's cool.
And people go, yeah, sure, okay.
I mean, that does make sense. That's another great way to really pay homage to Portal.
They definitely.
Yeah. Now, I do have to ask, who is it that did the narration? Is it anyone in the team?
Yeah, same thing.
No, actually, I did the initial voice work before we had a narrator, before we had a voice actor, just to get a feel of what the voice would say, and what kind of humor we're getting into. But it was Johnny Stone, Johnny Stone Sutton, who did the final voicing, and he did such a great job. I mean, half the lines probably weren't even in the script, and he just ad-libbed them, and we kept them because it was so fun.
That's got to be the best. Yeah.
Now I gotta ask. Is there any chance that we could get the Steve Crouse version of this game?
Well, I've been wanting to release a version with developer commentary.
I think that would be really good. Yeah,
because a lot of people have asked for that as well, and maybe if budget allows it at some point, maybe.
I do think, especially with such a storied origin of this game, I think it'd be really cool to see a developer commentary version of it. Hopefully, it's not something too difficult to implement, right?
It shouldn't be, I think. I mean, we have to make sure that we don't break the game in between, but like I said, big pile of Jenga.
Yeah. Is there anything you would be willing to tell us about the future of either ChromaGun or just something that Pixel Maniacs might be working on in the future?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, no plans on ChromaGun anytime soon. We are working on a PSVR version right now.
Awesome.
With the aim controller, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
And we do have a lot of content that we didn't use, like a lot of puzzle elements. But like, there's no plans of like doing ChromaGun 2 or anything in the future.
Okay.
At least in the near future.
Right.
So right now we're working on Can't Drive This, which I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to be coming to all the consoles in hopefully the end of the year.
Okay, very cool. And do you think you guys would be able to even implement the multiplayer for split screen multiplayer in Can't Drive This for that?
Oh, it's based on multiplayer.
Well, yeah, it is based on
split screen multiplayer.
Yeah, I think is it available on the Steam right now? Right, Can't Drive This.
It's available on early access on Steam right now. Yeah. Gotcha.
It's just I can imagine it might be really difficult to set up the control scheme for a controller.
It was a little bit of a challenge, like for the builder part, because that's where you use the mouse.
Right,
on the
that's
PC.
what I was thinking.
But we got it down, and I think it's really good. We found a really good way.
Right, I'm actually really excited for this. Yeah, this definitely seems like something that sharing a Joy-Con and playing it in a local multiplayer setting would be really fun with.
Oh, definitely. Like we tested it on the Nintendo Switch already, and we used Joy-Cons to playtest because they're just so handy. And it just works perfectly. I mean, you have 4 Joy-Cons and you're ready to go, like 4 players split screen.
Awesome. The last thing I just have to ask you, since we have you on here, did you see the Nintendo Labo announcement today by chance?
No! Damn, I wanted to, but I fell asleep.
Yeah, that must have been pretty late in the day for you.
Yeah, wait, hold on. What was it? Let me just look that up. Okay, hold on. What do I like? Watch a trailer or?
Sure. Yeah, the trailer's very short. It's only like a minute. I'm more than willing to wait to get your fresh reaction.
Okay, right. Yeah, I got the trailer here. It's like cardboard. What is that? Yeah, we were like super freaked out about them, about Nintendo like announcing a new game like that would completely screw our. Is that a piano?
Yeah, it's a cardboard piano.
What? Oh, you gotta be kidding me! What the heck? What? No. The piano pedal and the what the heck?
I mean, it's all cardboard.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super interesting.
I'm just glad they posted this on a Wednesday. Last week's Nintendo Direct Mini, they did Thursday morning, and I had to record it, like, right before I posted the effing...
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so strange. I think that's probably one of the strangest things I've seen in the last few years.
For gaming?
For gaming, yeah.
Like, they're really going hardcore on the whole cardboard deal here.
Yeah. What is that? Is that VR?
I don't know.
It's not actually very... It just has like a goggle set on the robot. It's just... I don't think it actually has a VR thing, though.
Holy nuts. And of course you can draw on the cardboard, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They have a whole set. You can even buy a thing just to help customize and color.
Really?
And yeah. They're selling a package just for customizing your stuff.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts.
No,
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
I don't think this is gonna cut into ChromaGun sales. Don't worry about that.
No, not at all. Yeah, like
It's
we were
not a
afraid they're
competing
gonna
thing.
announce a game that would release on the same day, like a new Legend of Zelda.
Well, anyway, I'm ecstatic to get your reaction to that. There, is there anything else that you want to plug or link our listeners to?
No, just check out ChromaGun, have a good time, hopefully, and
Okay.
if you dislike or like anything, don't be afraid to let us know.
Oh, do you guys have a Facebook group or a Discord chat that we can point our listeners to?
Oh yeah, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We do have a Discord. We do have a somewhat active community on Discord. We are not as active on Discord, but we'll find out. And we're also on Twitch, so stop by on Twitch as well.
Awesome.
All right. I will put all those links in the show notes. Just once again, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today. And to remind all of our listeners, ChromaGun will be available January 22nd on the eShop. Steve Crouse from Pixel Maniacs, thank you and have a good day. It was great speaking with you.
Absolutely no problem. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right, so let's just ease out of this show here with our usual closer. Let's do our system switch. JV, why don't you tell us about a game that maybe something that you saw at PAX South or just something that's been on your mind lately that you'd like to see come over to the Switch that has not yet made the trip?
Oh, man. The more I play games, the more I'm really, really begging for the titles that I love in other platforms to come to the Switch. For me right now, it is Zone of the Enders. This is a kind of mix between a mech game and Star Fox. It's an on-rails mech shooting game, and I adore this franchise to death. It was made by Hideo Kojima, the person who did the Metal Gear Solid series, and I love this stuff.
The only experience I guess I've had directly with Zone of the Enders is a lot of people said that the boss fights in the .hack GU games were very Zone of the Enders like, in that when it became this avatar and you'd be flying around in like cyberspace and you'd be shooting and hacking at the enemies and bosses in there. It was a interesting twist on the RPG gameplay, and it was just a fun little action segment. So if it is as enjoyable as those boss fights were, I could see that, digging that.
Yeah, and giant robots, mechas.
Giant robots.
So it's my thing.
Mine actually was inspired by a little bit of a troll.
Okay.
This week. Yeah, this week the devs behind Freedom Planet, which is a game I actually had never heard of before, but this was actually a Wii U game. And I think the best description of it is it's kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog meets Mega Man, and it has like the same kind of, it has very similar character designs. Like they're all these like anthropomorphic speed characters. So they made this weird post on Facebook this week where they put a copy of their game literally on a Switch and just kind of posted, "Are we doing it right?" And everyone was like, oh, they're putting Freedom Planet on Switch. That's awesome. But no, they actually said at the end of the week, no, we were just like, teasing. But now that everyone seems so excited, now we're thinking about it. So This looks really colorful. It has very similar, like I said, Sonic the Hedgehog type designs with all these like, cool characters, and it's very fast action. It's very bright worlds, and it just looks really fast and fun. And I think that I would eat this up.
Yeah, I'm looking at gameplay videos, and it really, really seems like Sonic. Like leans heavily towards Sonic.
Yeah, and also some really good voice acting, actually. I was listening to the characters, like, talking, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not, like, cheesy as like,
Sonic.
Maybe a Sonic was. I never got into Sonic, so maybe I wouldn't. I mean, this game got pretty good reactions, but I can imagine some people kind of being snooty about it, being like, oh, it's just imitation Sonic. But since I'm not necessarily a Sonic fanatic, I think I can accept this game pretty easily.
It does look like a ton of fun, regardless.
All right, that is our show for this week. We somehow made it through. We actually just want to give a shout out. We actually have a whole bunch of people who left us reviews this past month on Apple Podcasts, and we'd love to give a little shout out to our review crew. I'm going to call out to The Dark Maw, Eshu 2000, Malme5, Foyden, Parker Neff, and Switch Lemon.
Now, I want to give a shout out to JM Batson 94, Low 5x5, Grown Gamer, Kool-Ace 101, and Jobuken.
Yes, thank you guys. Anyone who wants to help us out is highly encouraged to give us a review on the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you get your podcasts from. But of course, our favorite way to help us out is to visit us at patreon.com/theswitchcast. We try to keep this show totally clear of ads, and the best way to keep us doing that is for you guys to keep us supported there. So patreon.com/switchcast. You can give us $1, $2, $5, whatever you're comfortable with a month, and there are certain reward tiers for your support if you're interested in that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, and we also have a Twitter account you can follow. That's twitter.com/theswitchcast. You can email us directly. That's kc@theswitchcast.com or jv@theswitchcast.com. Thanks again to the HeatleyBros for the theme music, and until next time,
switch it up!
Let's tap and let's tap. Future tapping game. No?